Right. So I hope that you've already got my couple of emails that I've sent out about it, and you've been there and you've had a look through. This class has really got two different locations for where things are found. Canvas, for the most part, is where you communicate with me. In other words, you can send emails to me through Canvas. I tend to send emails to you through Canvas. That's one of it, but it's got more stuff. It basically is where I put all these resources that you're likely to need. So for instance, if you were looking at this one, that one there is basically tells you a little bit about myself and the country I come from. And I'm hoping to get back home this summer, as long as the COVID Gestapo allow me. So I should be fine, but we'll find out. And that's where you go to join WebAssign. And I've got links to all sorts of things to help you. Our class has a unique key. So when you go to WebAssign, you use the key that's there, and that lets you into just our class. Nobody else except you lot use this particular class. That's my dog Bailey at the back telling me there's a bird outside or something. Here's Zoom. The fact you're already here means you've probably cured that. I don't know how much help that might be for the two of you who are having issues with audio, but if you click on that link, it should take you somewhere which may have the solution to your issue. Won't really talk much about this, but essentially when you do your tests and your exam, your final exam, I need to see the working for it, and so you will use either this software or something else like a scanner to take your working and turn it into a PDF, and that's what these are about. If you want to get extra help, this is my office hour. It's a Zoom link. Basically, you just use that link there, just like you used the class one, and it's a bit like knocking on my door. I'll let you in, and we can go over your homework, whatever your issue is.
Well, Professor Robertson?
Yes.
For WebAssign, I would suggest people get the unlimited one because it is very useful. It gives you access to a lot of textbooks, so you won't have to go and buy them every time. Yeah.
Ah, right. You pick up what Ashton is saying. If you're intending to do any other classes, the unlimited version, I'm assuming it's a little bit more expensive, but you save money because you don't need to buy your chemistry version, you don't need to buy your physics version and all the other versions of WebAssign.
I was able to do that with engineering and then linear algebra. Both had the books through it.
Perfect. So you might want to look into that to see if it's worth it. I mean, if this is your last math class and maybe this is your last quarter, it's probably not worth it, right? I don't know what you can do if you've already bought it. You might want to contact them to see if you can upgrade it. I'm sure they would allow it. You would just have to, speak to someone and get it upgraded with the extra amount if you feel it's worth it. Where else? Here, let's talk about this. This is essentially how our class is going to be organised. It's organised in 5 lots of 2 weeks, kind of nice, even chunks. This is what we're going to be doing for the first 2 weeks. And the homework, which we'll talk about on WebAssign, is due on midnight of that Sunday. And then on the Monday, well, in this case, the 19th, you're going to get your first test. And then you do 2 more weeks work and a test. Got the gist of it? 2 more weeks work and a test. 2 more weeks and a test. 2 more weeks, a test and a final. But I only count the best 4 tests. So if you've got 4 really good tests, you don't need to turn up on Monday to do that test. And on the other hand, if you really don't do well in a test, this one here, if you do well in it, can replace that score. So it's a way of improving your score. And the final exam's 3-hour chunk is like this. There are a couple of reasons why I'm pushing the video. One of them, it's helpful for me if I get visual clues. So when I look at Griselda's face and she looks like a deer in the headlight look, then I know I'm not doing my job well and maybe I should talk I should tackle whatever I'm trying to explain in a different way, right? So it's a visual clue. During all tests and exams, it's a way of security. I need to see you to make sure that David doesn't have his twin brother Donald behind him, telling him all the answers. Not that you have a twin brother, but I'm just picking on you, David, right? So it's a security thing, right? Since I can't be physically there, the closest I can be to that is to see you, right? And to know that there's no one obviously around you. So if you're wondering why I'm pushing the video, there's my two main reasons. It helps me to do my job better, in which case it helps you learn. And it's security on tests. But any questions so far? We feel comfortable, you know what's going on? So this is still, all of this is in Canvas, so you feel free to go back to Canvas and, you know, whatever, look it over. Where did I get to last time? Okay. Right, what I have here in, oh, by the way, before I forget, because I am jumping around more than I should. If we click on this one, which is where the Zoom stuff is stored, here is that link that you used to get to today. This link is going to be good until May the 21st, and then I'll change the link because that's all Zoom allows me to do that much in the future. At least that's all I found. There'll be a different link. So if I'll not be able to post every day this link because I'm just going to be the same link over and over again, right? So you know where to find it, right? Go to Canvas, there it is. Every single lesson, including this one, gets recorded and it'll be here. This lesson, for instance, is going to be here. And if any of you have issues that you don't want to appear on the video, then you have to tell me about it and I'll figure a way of editing it out. Most of the time, nobody cares, you know. You're a tiny little picture on the right-hand side. They'd have to really look hard to even know it was you. Most of the time.
Oh, that's a parentheses. I thought it was saying time equals happy face, and I was like, what does that mean?
No, it's just going to be 42.35. It'll tell you how long that video is. That's kind of the way I do things. So if you, why is it there? Well, a couple of reasons. Some of the stuff I've said today, you might forget. And you go back and you look at it. You might miss a day because you're at the dentist. Not a good idea to miss too many, but you might, in which case you can watch the video of the day that you missed. Right, so that's what it's there for, mostly. So we now wind back. Where else have we got? Here I have some videos, not my videos, but other people's videos. And they go over some of the same kind of stuff that the lesson's about. So if you want to know why you should study statistics, here's an interest. Here's some vocabulary. Here is some types of data, right? And so you can watch this person's video or his, theirs, or hers. It is helpful, I think, because I might not say it in a way that clicks for you, but someone else might say it in a way that does click for you. So it's a resource, right? So if a section's causing the issue, you might want to go and watch a video and say, oh yeah, that makes much more sense the way this guy said it, or this person. Here are some notes that I've put together. You'll also find them there. So they go over similar kinds of things, not exactly the same, because I like to give people lots of different ways of looking at things, but they give you a whole load of stuff. So if you want to, you can look at it. And if you find it's not your thing, then don't look at it, right? It's your choice. Let's close these two off now. This one here is lots and lots of college stuff. So for instance, it's very helpful for some sections in this class to have a TI-84. And you don't want to spend $100 on getting one for one class. Well, Mesh Office, MESH, look it up. We give you a free loaner. So you phone them up and you say, I'm in Mr. Robertson's stats class. I believe I can get a loan of a TI-84. And she will say, yes, we do. And you go down and pick it up. and you can have it for the whole quarter. You don't need to pay for one. And so it's certain sections, it's very helpful. In other sections, we won't be using it. The stuff that we're about to do in this week, for instance, you won't use it much. You could use any old calculator. But in other sections, it's like indispensable. So you do need it for some of the sections in this class. So you've got to make sure you get a hold of one soon. Okay, pause here. Anything in Canvas you want me to talk about? Anything new questions? If not, I'll move on. So far, so good? Okay, let's look at the syllabus now. Normally you'd get this as a piece of paper when you were in the usual old-fashioned class. Tells you prerequisites. Here are important dates. You see all the tests in the final. There are 2 days that there will be no classes. They're different. They might look the same, but they're not. Friday the 14th, the whole college is closed, so you won't get your English or anybody else. Monday the 26th, I'm just not going to be here. So don't tell your English teacher, oh, I took Monday off because Professor Robertson's said it was a holiday. I didn't say it was a holiday. I said I wouldn't be there that day. That's going to be my personal day. So there won't be a class for us, but everybody else is there. That makes sense? But Friday, everybody's gone, right? So there's a difference in those two. Monday 26th, just us. Friday the 14th, everybody. Now, I'll give you an example. Suppose you forgot which one was which. Can you go back and look at this video? Just, zoom forward to the bit where I said this and listen to it again, right? So there's a reason why recording Zoom lessons can be helpful. Right. Now, here is all the stuff that we talked about earlier. And now if I scroll down, let's talk about how you get points make prizes. 10% of your grade is participation. There are officially 50 class days. If I'm missing, you get that day for free. If it's a holiday, you get that day for free, right? But technically there's 50. 10% of your grade is for turning up in class. Sometime at the end of today, I'm going to ask you to say hi. That's as a comment, a text, hi. And I copy that file and I use it to take attendance. Right, so that's how I get attendance. I know that you're here because of that. So it does mean, however, that you need to have the name like David is good because I can tell who you are, right? But if you're called Bunny Rabbit 42, that's not a good name for Zoom. Because when I'm taking attendance, I don't know who Bunny Rabbit 42 is. You see my problem, right? Plus, if I want to talk to you, I don't want to say, what was that you asked, Bunny Rabbit 42? You see, it doesn't kind of work for us. So I know first day you might have done that. I don't think anybody in this class is a weird one. Let me do a quick scan. Okay, you are all quite adult and normal. But can I tell you, one of my previous classes didn't have Bunny Rabbit 42, but they had a name like Zyrk, Z-Y-R-K. And that wasn't his or her name. That was just what they called it. You see my problem? So call yourself George, more grade. WebAssign, 20% of your grade. 30% is tests, 40% is final. You get an extra credit of 2% if you do the Canvas orientation course. If you've already done it, which you might have, just send me the certificate and you've already got 2%. Add the whole lot up, get your grade. Pretty straightforward. It's something you can read over in your own time. Right, I'm going to call that good. Any last questions about the syllabus?
Just a quick question.
Sure.
Do you want us to let you know if we know we're going to miss a class, or just don't worry about it and look at the recorded version?
If you're going to miss it, you know you're going to lose participation point. It's nice for me to know just out of courtesy. I'll be able to tell because when I take the register, you're not there. But it's kind of just courtesy.
Okay.
If it's something that is major and is going to involve you missing a lot of time, then we may be able to make an accommodation. It depends what it is. If you say, my sister from Ontario is staying for 2 weeks and we just want to have a girls' week out, that's probably not going to get you anything. If you say, I have to go in for major surgery, you know, I'll be generous about that one, right? So it depends on if you're going to the dentist, heck, everybody has to do things, right? I understand that. But if you're going to miss a lot of time, I suggest you don't take this class. I suggest you quickly join another class, which is maybe asynchronous or doesn't have a participation point situation. Because, you know, losing 10% is not a good way to start a class if you know you're not going to be able to make the lectures. But a good question. Anything else? Okay, the next one's going to be much quicker because it's going to be kind of you'll learn on the go. Some of you have done WebAssign, in which case this is really boring, and I apologize for that. Are you looking at WebAssign right now? Okay, I think I'll make it a little bit bigger if I can get away with that, so I have to tell. Yeah, that look big, looks big to me. Okay, so basically you go into your WebAssign, do a student's view. Yeah, it might make it look more like what you see. There we go.
Yeah, I was wondering why it looked weird.
Yeah, your thing will look more like this. Do you see all these? These are your homework assignments for the next 2 weeks. Right, that's what we're going to do. Now, these are the best guesstimates. We've changed textbooks, so I can't guarantee this. I may change this. I may move something to the next 2 weeks. I may bring something back up, which is very unlikely, but I may move things around. And I'm allowed to do that because I put it in my syllabus that I'm allowed to do that. But for the most part, this is pretty much what you're going to do. And let's pick something at random. You click on that. And the way WebAssign works is you get a question like you would do in a textbook and you put the answers in there. And I'm making these answers up so they won't be right. That one's 14 and that one's 25. And if you're happy, you do submit. And of course I was wrong. But if I was right, a big green tick would appear. Did that update? I don't know what Zoom does. Right, so you can get the gist of it. So you're going to be doing work on your calculator and the answer 42 is going to appear and 42 goes in the box. And do you notice that WebAssign doesn't get you to write in every line of work? And God, that would take you forever, right? But it has different things that it can do. Some of the stuff involves, there we go. Here is some data. Find a 5-figure summary, whatever that is, and I'll tell you. And then pick which picture it is. And if you think it's that one, you put the little dot on it. So you might, in fact, I strongly suggest you would actually draw that picture on your paper. You'd look at your picture and say, yep, it looks like the fourth one. And that's how you know that it's the fourth one, right? So that's how diagrams are sometimes done. Here's an example of things. See this guy here called SALT? It's an inbuilt program inside WebAssign that deals with statistical data. If I click on that data, use SALT, it's going to use this data here. So I would click on it. I want charts and diagrams. I want to select a variable. And I want a box plot. And there's my answer. That's the box plot. Now, it doesn't quite look like the 4 choices. That's not my fault. That's WebAssign. But see if you could turn your head sideways. It would be one of the 4 pictures. And you'd be able to choose picture 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is, right, it'd be one of those 4 pictures. I'm not sure which one it is. Looks like it starts at 240, 150 to 240. So 150 to 240. Oh, that is much use. They all do that. The median is at 191. Let's see which one of them looks like it's 191. It's that one. So that's how I figured out it was that one. Right, and you go and you do your stuff. So basically you do your working on paper like you would always do. But in WebAssign, they typically just want a single answer in a box or pick a picture, that kind of thing. Are we comfortable with WebAssign? At least the people who've done it. If you're new to WebAssign, it might take you a day or two just to get into the swing of things. But just do your homework the way you always would on paper, right? And then look at your answer and, you know, stick it in the right box and you're good to go. I think I should return here. Right, each homework is worth 100%. In other words, they're all worth 100 points. So what's going to happen is that you get a grade based on how well you did in your homework. You don't get one shot, if you were thinking about that, which is a little bit different from normal homework. You know, you do it and then you get graded. You get 5 shots. I think it's 5, which is tons. You won't need 5. And if you get it wrong, you just do it again. You just look at the one that's got a cross and you do only that again, because the others will be, you know, check in green. And hopefully you've got it, you know, third shot, you'll have figured it out. And if you get really stuck, I don't know if it does it with all these questions. I'll go back in here for a minute. Wrong one. Some of them you can hit a little button that says, give me another example, and it shows you some other examples. So it's pretty generous about what you need to do as far as homework's going. You've got 5 shots. If you're really stuck at the end of 5, then it probably means that you haven't grasped something. Maybe you need to, you know, do a office meeting with me and we can fix it. Any questions on the homework, or are we good? So you're happy about Canvas as a place where you go and get information, but WebAssign is where you do the stuff, right? WebAssign also happens to have your textbook. So it's an ebook. So you can just look at it like you would, you know, use a paper one. They have examples and so on. I mean, I guess I should click on it to show you what it looks like. Takes a few moments to load up. There we go. If you were doing, say, chapter 2, and you looked at types of variables, we see it basically a textbook, and then turn the page, and it gives you some examples. So, kind of useful resource, right? As much as I'd like to, we don't have enough time for, you know, to spend ages on anything. So certain things you'll just have to, you know, devote some time of your own to maybe going into it in a little bit more depth till it makes sense. But I'm now ready to, pretty good time. Took us 30 minutes. That's about my average for a syllabus. To start our intro to statistics. Are you looking, hopefully, at my hand? Well, let's worry about that in a minute. Let's look at what is statistics. Well, statistics, or one way of defining statistics, it's the study of information. Which we tend to use the word data. Statistics then deals with information. What kind of things does it deal with? Well, It deals with how to collect data, how to collect the information. It deals with how to display it. And what I mean by that is, well, quite a few of them you've met in your life, you know, like histograms and pie charts and bar charts and frequency tables, right? How you take information and put it in a visual form that makes it easier to see. Because if you didn't, wouldn't you just get pages and pages of numbers? And people would look at it and say, that's not much use to me. You summarize the data. Now, what that tends to mean is you've collected data on 200 people, right? And you've got a nice picture to show it, but it's sometimes helpful if you can have one or two numbers that give you kind of a big picture view of it. So the kind of things I'm talking about here are ideas like the mean, you know, like the average of the data tends to be with numbers, right? But we also have things like how spread out the data is, things like that. That would be summarizing the data. 5-figure summary is a good example of that. That's, you take the data and you don't use all 200 numbers, but you use one number says the average age of people at this statistics class is 27.
Can I bug you for a second? Yeah, can I bug you for a second?
I will be back short.
So now can you get in at 4 o'clock tomorrow for a meeting?
Yes. Hi, in case you don't know what that was, that's my wife who decided she had to ask me an important question right in the middle of the class. Okay, where were we? Summarizing data. One of the joys of teaching at home is that your dog wants a poo walk, the postman comes, or your wife needs something, or your partner. So collecting the data, displaying the data, summarizing the data. Predictions using the data.
Robertson?
Yes.
So there's a message through my OC email that just showed up because I had it open. From Cheyenne Beaushaw. She's been in the waiting room for 30 minutes.
Oh God, the poor soul. That poor girl. I should tell you that once I put my full screen on, I don't actually see anything except my full screen. So you've got a job from now on. Check the thing he's saying she hasn't got in. I'm going to have to. Yeah. I'm panicking here. How am I going to find her? She's around here somewhere. I just have to find where she is. She is not here. Can you send her an email saying, oh, I got them. We found it. Thank you. Right. Hopefully they didn't miss too much. I'll give them a few seconds to kick in. Right. For those who've been waiting in the waiting room, my apologies. I forgot that once I start the lesson, all the other little windows kind of get hidden behind the main window. And so I don't see you anymore. You may want to watch the beginning of this video in Canvas to catch up on the things that you've missed, which is another reason why I should tape every Zoom lesson, right? You're always going to catch up. So anyway, predicting using the data. You've collected a whole load of data and then you want to make predictions on it. Like, I wonder if there is a connection between high blood pressure and heart attacks. I wonder if I can use your average blood pressure temperature to put a percentage chance that you might get the heart attack? Could I use data to predict what the weather is going to be like next year? Could I use data to predict what the stock market is going to do next week? Right, where you've got data, but you're going to use it to predict either the future or to put a prediction on the likelihood of something happening to any given particular person. So medical data is very often used in a predictive way as well. Do you know if you have a certain blood potassium level that's too high, couldn't that be a predictor of a certain disease? People with high potassium levels may have the following disease more likely than other people who don't have a high potassium level. Those are the kind of things I mean. And then the last thing that we use it for is the weirdest one. And it's the last thing we do because it is probably going to be the hardest thing. It's called hypothesis testing. And in hypothesis testing, what we do here is that we've collected data and then we're going to use it like it was a trial. Is there enough evidence in this data to prove something is true? Now that proving something is true could simply be to prove that the average age of OC students is greater than 25, which isn't particularly earth-shattering, but it could be used. Is there enough evidence to prove that someone's, I'll give you a good example. DNA is a very, very good predictor, isn't it? The chances that you by sheer accident have the exact same DNA as someone else is something ridiculous like 14 billion to 1, which essentially means there isn't anybody in the universe that we know of that's probably got your DNA. And if you watch a lot of crime stories, if they find DNA on the victim, isn't that a very, very strong piece of evidence? So hypothesis, that would be an analogy to what we're doing here. We're looking for evidence. Some of it is really strong evidence like DNA, and other evidence isn't so strong. Do you know, just because your blood group is O, right, and O blood group was found at the scene of the crime, would you agree that's probably not going to convict you? Because lots of people have O, and it's not necessarily you. So how strong is your data? Is it strong enough evidence to like put the guy in jail? Is it not that strong? So we shouldn't make really any assumptions. And this thing called hypothesis testing is a way of us quantifying how strong the evidence is in the data. Is it telling you what you think is true? Or it might be telling you that, but it could just as likely be telling you something else. You know, it's kind of wishy-washy data. And you can't just look at data and say, well, in my opinion, this is strong evidence that something's true, which is essentially what politicians do. Because they're always right, aren't they? At least that's what they keep telling me. We don't, hopefully, look at data that same way. So that's the big picture. That's what we're going to look at. So we are going to now spend the next few minutes looking at what is data, which is a pretty simple question. What do we mean by information? Well, there are tons of different kinds of information, and some information you can do an awful lot to, and other information you can't do quite as much. So it's useful if we know, if we can categorize the data. So let's start with what is called categorical data. Right, examples of categorical data would be, you get a lot of this kind of data when you do surveys. Do you know if you ask people questions like, what's your favorite color? Right? And somebody says blue and somebody says green, and then another person says blue again, and then somebody says violet, and so on. And you collect, I don't know, 200 people's favorite color. That's an example of categorical data. Do you see starters? Isn't the data, it's not numbers, it's just things. Do you know if someone went and said to you, what's your opinion of increasing taxes? and they give you a scale, 1, you know, what would be 1, I'm totally against it, right? And then 2 would be I'm against it, you know. And 3, I don't really care, right? You're neutral. 4, you're for it. And 5, you know, you're like totally for it. Have you ever been asked questions like that? It's typically in a 5-number scale. And the reason they just put numbers there, it's easier, isn't it, to type a number in than the whole word. And so they collect, you know, Washington State or Kitsap County or whatever it is, they've decided we want to increase the taxes to pay for, right, whatever. And then they go out and they do a survey, and I'm totally against that tax. I don't want to pay any more money to, you know, get another playground or whatever it is. And yeah, that's a great idea. I would pay extra money for that to happen, right? And you've got this thing. The data is numbers, although the numbers are codes. And this is also categorical data. So categorical data doesn't mean that it's not a number, but aren't these numbers just codes for things, responses? And to give an example, that's a 2 and that's a 4. Would you say that double and against is the same thing as a 4? Do you see, it doesn't make sense to do any calculations with the numbers. Would you agree? A person who says 4 isn't twice as in favor of somebody who says a 2, right? It doesn't work that way. So far, so good. Now, these 2 types of categorical data break into 2 subgroups. So there's 2 kinds of categorical data. There's this top one, the blue, green, red kind of thing, and they call it, in this book at least, not ordinal. You will also see in other textbooks and other contexts, they also use the word nominal. So nominal or not ordinal. I like nominal, but not ordinal is what they use. That's data that has no order. Would you agree that blue doesn't come before green or red or violet, right? There's no particular natural order, right? Yellow and pink. Which one goes first? I don't know. Well, that's a good test. That means it's not ordinal. On the other hand, things that have an order to them, these are called ordinal. That would be an example. Here's another example of ordinal. Oh, I've forgotten the order. Senior. Okay, give me the other groups you get at high school. What are the other names you give? I've lost it. My brain's gone.
Sophomore and freshman.
Right, so where does sophomore go in this list? First?
Second.
Second.
And freshman would be first.
Right. So suppose you were collecting data on high school students, and you said, what are you? You know, I'm a junior, I'm a sophomore, right? I'm a freshman, I'm a senior. Would you agree that these have a natural order to them? And so this would be called ordinal. I tend to use the first 3 letters of the word to help me. Doesn't it look like order? Ordinal, right? Order, ordinal. And that helps me to remember it. And if it doesn't have an order, not ordinal or nominal. Do you feel clear in your mind the 2 distinct types of categorical data, right? Okay, let's test you on one. Suppose you were collecting data, and one of the things that you collected was male, female. What kind of data is it's categorical, but what kind of categorical data is it?
This one would be not ordinal.
Yes. Unless you are sexist and think males come before females, right? We will assume that there's no distinct, obvious order to that data. How about you ask people their favorite TV shows?
That would also be not ordinal.
Agreed? I mean, you know, I don't see how a quiz show is first and a documentary show is second, right? There's no order to them. How about this one? You collect data on the age that a person is in. And this is the age groups that you decided. Let's say the last age group was 99 or 100 because there wasn't anybody older. That is considered categorical. Although these are numbers, isn't this a group of numbers? It's not a single value anymore, it's a whole group. I mean, I could have just said very young, youngish, teenagers, you know, adult, really old, fogies, whatever. I could have given all other labels, but these are the labels I've given. What kind of data? Categorical data, because that is still categorical.
Should still be ordinal because it's kind of, well, I guess in order.
Yeah, it has an order. Would you agree? It has a natural order. Right. So when you're looking at data and you're saying to yourself, what kind of categorical data do I have? If you can say, yeah, that data has a natural list, a natural start, middle, finish, right? An order that most adults would agree on, then it's ordinal, right? Ordinal. If that data has no particular order, right? It doesn't matter what order you put them in, it's pretty much the same information, then it's not ordinal, is what the textbook will use. Any questions about that? Right, we've got a few minutes, so let's get the last one over with. It's already partially written. This is quantitative data. And quantitative data are always numbers. Can't categorical data have numbers? And sometimes does and sometimes doesn't, right? But if you're going to be quantitative, right, quantities, it has to be numbers. And those numbers have to have more properties than just codes, right? They are really things. And they break into continuous and not continuous. Well, in this book, they're called continuous and not continuous. In other books, they're called continuous and discrete. Just telling you, you know, there's a second name for this. So let's show you the difference between what discrete numbers look like and what continuous numbers look like. If I asked you, how many coins have you got in your pocket? That would be discrete, because the answer is, I don't have any, I have 1 coin, I have 5 coins. Discrete, the answers can only be specific numbers. You can't get numbers between 2 consecutives. What do I mean by that? You could have 1 coin, you could have 2 coins, but you will never have 1.7 coins in your pocket. Would you agree that has no normal sense? So
What if you cut your coin apart?
no, we ain't going there, right? And we aren't going to do that to the children, because that's my next one. How many kids are in your family? You can have 3 kids, you can have 5 kids. You are not allowed to cut one in half and say you have 3.5 kids. You're not allowed to cut their head off and say you've got 3.1 kid either, right? You either have 3 kids or you have 4 kids. That's what discrete looks like, right? Now, discrete, just to be really awkward, I'm going to break what I just said, but only partially. Can't you have 4, 4.5, 5, and 5.5 shoe sizes. Now that's still considered discrete because you cannot get 4.12333 shoe size. Would you agree that's not a shoe size that you would buy? So discrete doesn't always mean, although most of the time it does, 1, 2, 3. It means 1, another number, but nothing in between two consecutive numbers, right? So if you've got a 4 and you can have a 4.5, you aren't allowed a 4.1 or a 4.12. Then it's discrete. Continuous is pretty much obvious. If I asked you, for instance, the temperature. Now you might say to me the temperature is 71 degrees Fahrenheit, which is true. You could tell me it was 72 degrees Fahrenheit. But if you were really accurate and you had a really good thermometer, couldn't you also tell me it's 71.234 degrees Fahrenheit if you really wanted to find out? Can you see that temperature is continuous? Agreed? So let's do a quick data and see which kind it is. Your height, continuous or not continuous?
Continuous.
Correct. Can't you be 61 inches and 61.1 inches and 61.2? Most people wouldn't do that, but couldn't you do it? It's possible to do it if you're being really accurate. I've already mentioned this one, but I can't think of a good one right now. Number of children.
Discrete.
Right, you're correct. But for the sake of the homework, we'll just try and remember if they call it not continuous, but it is discrete, you're right. Let's phrase the question a different way. Let you use your imagination. Give me an example of continuous data. Give me something you could measure that would be continuous data.
I actually have a question about the children aspect because they talk
Yes.
about average family size and they're
Yes.
presenting that in a continuous data form, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That's true. That will happen.
Okay.
So you might say the average family size in America is 3.1. The data that you used was discrete data, but the summary could well be, as this case it was, continuous. And that's okay. All that means is that slightly more than 3 children, right? Mostly 3, but a little bit above 3. In the same way that 3.5 would represent somewhere between 3 and 4 children is about the average family size. 3.1 means it's more likely to be 3 kids than not as an average. So it's a kind of blend of the two. Right, anybody got a continuous or not continuous example of data to finish the day off?
Lamps.
Kind of a lame one, but like volume
Nope.
of water in a cup.
Okay, volume, that would be continuous, agreed? Right. Delaney, you got anything?
Well, just to see if I understand, maybe like the weight of an object.
Yeah, that would be good data. What kind of data would weight be?
Well, I mean, something could be.
Oh, no, I mean continuous or not continuous. That's what I mean, the question. So
Well,
weight is good.
I was thinking continuous, but you know, I could be
Correct.
wrong.
No, you're right. Think about it. I mean, if you're measuring something, couldn't it be 4 pounds or 4.1 pounds or
Yeah, sure.
4.123 pounds? If you can say that and it makes sense, it's continuous. But if
Okay.
you can say, can I have 4 children? Can I have 4.1 children? And David's point about the mean is a little distracting, but it's true. For a single piece of data, you can only have 4 kids or 5 kids, right? You can't have 4.1 kids. So think of it for a single piece of data. What would I be able to get? If you can get any number at all, it's continuous. If you can only have fixed values,